Marvel's first family, it returns back to the big screen, and after several iterations, did the Marvel get it right this time? Let's take a look at the new version of the Fantastic Four. Hi, my name is Chandler, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cinema Corner. Today we'll be talking about Fantastic Four, First Steps, the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that builds on what came before, but also adds a unique flavor to Marvel's first family. Going into it, this feels like the MCU is turning a corner to where it feels like it's getting back to what made its brand so compelling and exciting for everybody to go see, but also add something new to the foundation by bringing the Fantastic Four into it, and we'll get into that part. So with that being said, let's get into the full breakdown. And right into the strengths of this movie is the look. The overall vision of this world is the retro-futuristic vision of the 60s. Think of it like the Jetsons coming to the modern era, which gives its own unique look and aesthetic in bringing the Fantastic Four to it. And also is an homage to the original comics by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee that really tries to be like a love letter to the Marvel's first family, but also introduce modern audiences to it. There have been several iterations of the Fantastic Four before this in the past 20 years. I'm a personal fan of the mid-2000s version because I grew up on those, so I had a personal bias to that part. But going into this, they really got the Fantastic Four right with their dynamic and as well bringing their unique establishment to it. The world building itself really adds to the aesthetic to where these is all lived in, it's really a fresh experience. It doesn't really go over the origin story, it just brings you into it. And the characters themselves, they've been the Fantastic Four for already 4 years, so you're already just going over the origin side of it and just getting right into the meat of things and just part of the adventure. One cool aspect of it was the use of television, interviews, and the documentary style look to it, as it really brings into the 60s aesthetic. It felt reminiscent of the old NASA documentary where you think about the Apollo moon missions and JFK New Frontier vibe, to where it feels like an optimistic and hopeful take, but also is used in a clever way to really, it gets you caught up with all the bases of their origin and their power sets and who they are as people without necessarily do a full 2-hour breakdown of their origin story as previous versions have done in the past, which I think was a clever way to get the audiences up to speed, but also ready for a new chapter going forward. The thematic elements are really a big standout in this as well, and they include the strong sense of family and the use of space travel and exploration. Space travel and exploration has been a unique cornerstone of the Fantastic Four that hasn't been utilized as much, because I think going back they were limited by their time and the technology to where you couldn't really explore this on the big screen. But in this version, it really leans into the space travel element, which was nice, and also characterizes the Fantastic Four as explorers in addition to being superheroes, which I think adds their own unique dynamic where they will stand apart in the MCU as a whole. And the heart of it being family is the main four are a big family unit, and you really feel the heart and soul in that dynamic in their group, to where each character has their own unique place in the family unit and also stands out. They bicker, they have their back and forth.
You're gonna be the best mom in the world. And you are gonna be the best dad. Just kidding. You are out of your depth. We are gonna be the best uncles ever.
They have their quirks and flaws. It feels grounded in a way that's both earnest and real, but also lends itself to, the pun intended, the fantastical elements of this. In addition, the sci-fi elements really play a good homage to Interstellar, Star Trek, and a few of the Jack Kirby comic books. Really, you'll see those sequences what I'm talking about, where you see it's a scene ripped out right from Interstellar in the middle point of the scene where they're battling Silver Surfer. So that was a cool detail I saw in this case that leans into the sci-fi element from the 60s. Also, that worked thematically was a well-balanced tone, I thought, to where the film didn't get bogged down by over-the-top humor and needless jokes as other MCU films have struggled with in the past, to where the jokes in this version of the Fantastic Four felt character-based and actually earned. And also, it does balance it well with the sense of drama and sense of stakes, to where you feel both the personal family element, where it adds that personal connection to it, as well as the global stakes. It is also a world-ending threat, but you also have to keep in track and it's really focused on the family too, so you're not lost along the way of the overarching grand scheme of the story. The main element to talk about is the cast right now. Pedro Pascal, I was a little worried about him being cast as Mr. Fantastic because I didn't really see him doing that kind of role going into it, and he's been in almost everything else, so it was a skepticism going into it, but needless to say, he worked for the story he was in, and he actually played it very well as Mr. Fantastic. He played the troubled genius, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he's also a science geek at heart, as well as any others. He also has some layers to it to where he has the flaws as he is in the comic books, where he can be a little cold and calculated at times to where it can be distant and also take an emotional toll on the other members of the Fantastic Four, especially his wife Sue, to where that was a very interesting surprise seeing Pedro Pascal can play into that element and also do it, but also keep him grounded and relatable in his nerdiness, but also he is the leader of the team, to where I think he did a really great job of the story he was in. The powerhouse is definitely Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. She is the emotional core of the group and the anchor, and where you feel the weight of all the personal stakes and the family scenes through her perspective. And she's definitely a powerhouse of a superhero, to where she takes on Galactus head on with her force field powers and invisibility, where she is the driving force that helps really push Galactus back. And also the heart of it is her role as a mother. It made me think of my mom on the big screen as a superhero in this case, as she goes to bat to defend her kids. It really is a showcase to the power of mothers looking after their children, and you do not mess with Mama Bear when it comes to that. So seeing Sue Storm portray that on the big screen made me think of my mom. It was very heartfelt and brought a big smile to my face. Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, he was great as it. He really captured Johnny Storm's personality well. And like, it sounds like the conversation leading up to the release, it made him see like it was mischaracterized in a way. Like, it's not exactly like that, to where he's not like a womanizer playboy. Like, there's elements in there to where he has that personality, but the role he's placed in doesn't allow that element to come to the forefront. So it's more of an interesting, say, the conversation between the cast, producers, staff, you name it, leading up to the release kind of painted the picture one way versus how Johnny's portrayed on the big screen. He's still a great character in that case. He's still the fun-loving, a little cocky, little brother energy to the group, but also the loyal uncle that will go to bat for his family overall. And he's used really well in this case. He definitely plays more into the astronaut role, to where he longs to be in space again, the explorer, which is, I think, was a good element to add to his character that has been shown in other versions before. And as well, he's definitely utilized well for one of the plot points, to where he has an element where he has to break down the language of the Silver Surfer, which utilizes his brain skills as well, to where it makes him a contributing member of the group. Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm the Thing was good. Like, he's not given as much to do. He is just the tough guy with the gentle giant personality, where he always looks out for the rest of the group and has these emotional moments and fun banter with Reed, Sue, and Johnny. But for him, there's not as much character development. He walks around the street and interacts with the public, but it's not much to do with him. Previous versions had him more of this tragic elements to him, to where as part of his character, he does not view himself as a hero, or doesn't want to be, because he feels himself like looks like a monster, because he looks like a full rock monster. But in this version, since the Fantastic Four have been established already for the past 4 years, they've been involved, it doesn't really cover that part. It's usually more of an origin story kind of tale, so that element's taken away from Ben Grimm in this. Like, he's still good in it, but there wasn't as much to do with him as previous versions were. Now on to the antagonist. Galactus is a force to be reckoned with and is very menacing. Ralph Ineson really has a commanding voice that really enhances his presence. It is a full upgrade from the 2007 version, where it's just a cloud. But for this, now that we have been around in the superhero genre for over 20 plus years, you can do these big cosmic beings and really showcase what they look like and how menacing they can be. And they definitely did that with Galactus. He was definitely used well. It's not really a straight up villain like ill intent. Galactus is more of a force in nature, to where you just got to overcome him if you can't reason with him at all. And he was used well for Silver Surfer served her role well in this case, of the Herald Galactus. In this case, she plays the same role as other versions did in the previous, like, Silver Surfer version 2007, and as well. And she looked really unique and cool with this in this case, and plays to the aesthetic. There were a couple emotional moments where were very moving as well. It would have been nice if they unpacked that a little more, because I think there could have been some more development with her. But for the role she was in, she definitely served the purpose well, and she definitely was a commanding force to it, or presence, and that was memorable. A couple side notes to be aware of in this case: you can go into this version of the Marvel movie without having seen any of the previous movies, TV shows. There is no homework, which is a great sign for that and a plus for that. Lately, Marvel has been kind of been a chore to get through in this case, because there's so many different projects that wasn't clearly stated like what's important to see for the plot and what's connected to it or what's stand on its own. But for this, for Fantastic Four, you do not have to see anything else before it. Casual audience can go right into it to enjoy it, as well as diehard Marvel fans can enjoy it as well. You get the same experience out of it. There are 2 post-credit scenes. There's one mid-credit scene that you will definitely want to save for, or definitely watch for that, because that definitely sets something important up in the future. But in the post-credit scene, that's more of like a fun little gimmick. That's a tribute to Jack Kirby. And if you want to see it, you're welcome to. It's definitely not it's not must see and a must watch for that. All in all, this movie has a lot of great strengths and really enhances Fantastic Four on the big screen. But there were a few nitpicks and trade-offs that I want to talk about right now. So let's get into that. Like I said, these are just small little trade-offs and nitpicks that don't really make or break the experience overall. But just a few things that stood out to me, unless you're looking for it. One being that some CGI shots didn't work quite as well, mainly for Galactus, and also there's a CGI baby that's in it. It can be a little off-putting at first, at least when I saw it on the big screen, the effects kind of made it a little wonky, but overall it didn't really take away from it. Another element of it, the plot can give it a little sci-fi, timey-wimey plot holes to where if you sit and think about it long enough, it shouldn't work in real life, and it doesn't mean to. It's more of a believability. You wouldn't think it's a plot hole, wouldn't figure out how they solved this problem. But overall, you go along with it as part of the sci-fi element to where you just don't question it. But if you sit with it too long, you might have some questions about it. What did Galactus not do this, or why they choose to do this route for solving this problem? It's part of the mechanic. If you don't think about it too long, it won't make or break your experience. But when you sit with it, it can be a little ridiculous too. Another element too, I would have loved to see the Fantastic Four interact with the general public more, and also the action. They don't really showcase their powers as much as you expect. So I've missed that element to where we could see some of their powers going off. Even Mr. Fantastic is a little ridiculous. His power set's a little bit reduced, so it's more about his mind, which is plays to the strength of the character. But it's kind of funny that they didn't really show the stretchy powers as much, because I don't know if you can make that work on live action per se. It works with The Incredibles with animation, but live action is tricky, so I've been curious if they could have pulled it off, how that would have gone about it. But the others, they don't really showcase their powers as well. Like Sue Storm has her one powerful moment at the end of the final battle of Galactus. Johnny looks great with his flames, and that played into it. And then Ben Grimm was full effects driven the whole time. He looks great. But most is more about the family dynamic and less about the action. So that was a minor nitpick, but overall it still plays into the experience overall and doesn't take away from it. In the end, Fantastic Four First Step is a welcome return for the MCU as a whole, and it's a good step in the right direction, I hope, for going forward. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Definitely worth watching on any format for its fun family dynamics, cool sci-fi aesthetic, and more. You can definitely get your bang for your buck out of this. Thank you again for watching, and hope to see you next time on the Cinema Corner.